I'm Tim Malloy with the Palm Beach Civic Association, working in conjunction with the town of Palm Beach. It is March 25th, a Wednesday, and here's the very latest. As yesterday, we spoke at length about the lake trail and the heavy usage and the guidelines that have been sent up by the town and are now being forced. It did not go over very well with a lot of people. And it is a request, not a demand, but it is extremely important. So let's go over this again. The town cannot limit usage of the lake trail to residents only, so we urge you to modify your personal trail usage schedules and abide by these regulations. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, only walkers, runners, and children age 12 and under on bicycles are allowed on the lake trail. Once again, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, only walkers, runners, and children under the age of 12 and under on bicycles are permitted on the lake trail. Cyclists 13 and older and all other permitted uses can take place outside of those times. Please remember that dogs must be leashed at all times. Don't forget to clean up after your pet. It's pretty clear that not everyone is abiding by the social distancing recommendations. There are parties around town. It's troubling to the police. And there's more to know about this from the town. Here's Wendy Rutledge.
Tim, the town has been getting reports that people are gathering in their homes in somewhat large groups, maybe having a little private party, assuming that they're safe because they know who's coming in their door. The town officials want you to know that that is a fallacy and that it is unsafe to gather in groups, even if you feel that you are in the privacy of your own home and therefore you're safe. So the town is urging you, please, not to congregate in your home, assuming that you're going to be fine, because that is apparently, according to the experts, not necessarily so. And there is other news of the day. The governor has now issued an advisory that all people 65 years and older are urged to stay at home. This is strongly recommended. It's been recommended for the past week, and the governor is now reinforcing that. Also, a reminder that any visitors coming in to the state of Florida from the states of Connecticut, New Jersey, or New York are now required to self-isolate or quarantine for a period of 14 days. That is also for your protection. And again, boat docks, ramps, and marinas are closed until further notice. Also, town public buildings and governmental offices are closed until further notice. And one more reminder, it is extremely important that shoppers going in and out of Publix maintain the 6-foot social distancing. So look at where you are in line. Position yourself so that the cart in front of you is 6 feet in front of you, the cart behind you is 6 feet behind you, and that you are maintaining the 6-foot social distancing. And finally, Tim, because the town is sensitive to the fact that the lake trail is really part of the fabric of the community and very much an important part of sanity and the way of life, they are holding a special town council meeting. It will be this Friday at 11 a.m. and you can be part of that meeting telephonically. Just go to townofpalmbeach.com and click on meeting audio and you can take part. Back to you, Tim.
But a lot of people are doing the right thing. This town of 8,700 people does not at all look like a town of 8,700 people right now. I took a ride around town earlier today. Palm Beach is not a ghost town. There are no tumbleweeds coming down the streets. Workers working, building going on, lots of work trucks. Landscapers, people tending to lawns. The big difference is that there aren't as many walkers out. Even the boats that in the last few days seem to be prevalent are not so much out. I think people are staying in. Noticeable as well is the fact that the clubs are closed. The Palm Beach Country Club up here on the right has been shut down for several days. Only security there. And of course the adjacent, across the street, the Beach Club is shut down as well. The lake trail situation this morning apparently was alleviated a great deal. Not many people out there abiding by the rules, which are pretty stringent, trying to keep separation between people. Tennis courts by the Beach Club, no one on them. Two people obviously know each other, walking closely together. Guys working on the hedges, that's something a staple in Palm Beach. A lone bicyclist So people are out, and that's what, people are being encouraged to be out as long as they keep separation. The sun is good for you. Coming up now on Lone Market's open. Green's Pharmacy, of course, the drugstore is open. There's takeout. And Maurizio Adamici has heroically, with his great staff, stayed open. The churches, sadly to many, remain closed. It's just too much a risk, at least at this point. Hopefully down the road, and church means so much, synagogue to so many people. So hopefully we wouldn't get that back into our lives soon. Restaurants are open for pickup. It's one of many. Almond, one of the new additions to town. Stores generally shuttered. As in the Aller remains open, you do not have to close. But as we go forward, goodness knows. Beaches, of course, closed and have been for quite some time, and it is being enforced strictly. Fifth Avenue, one of the world's great shopping meccas, is open pedestrian traffic, but that's about it. There are cars driving down Worth, and some people looking in windows, but doors are not open. I mean, this recalls the days when we have a Category 3 or 4 hurricane off the coast. The breakers as well closed. Amazing, closing for 3 weeks and giving up a great deal of food to the food bank. So kudos to the breakers as well. And if ever there was a time to be thankful for our fire rescue people, making a lot of rounds. Quiet at the moment. But these are the frontline people. These are first responders. These are the people who suit up when someone is ill. And obviously we should all give a shout out to our police who are on duty 24/7 and Chief Christo. These are the people first called to any kind of scene of any kind, and right now obviously the consequences can be different on making a call. So, sort of a ride of appreciation today as we look at people being cautious, almost everybody we see, but also paying tribute to the people who are enforcing that. Hall closed for business, but it doesn't mean our city leaders are not working overtime, and they certainly are. Weary and caring and troubled as we all are about the unknown. As you know, Maggie Zeidman, former nurse in New York City for many years, head of nursing at Lenox Hill, also a councilwoman, so she touches all the bases on this and gives us a daily dose of advice and an update from the town. So let's go to Maggie right now.
Here's something you may not be aware of. A couple of weeks ago, when we had the public safety meeting and we devoted it to the coronavirus, it was the Palm Beach Civic Association, Mary Robison, who got up and asked a very important question. And that was, should we be gathering together for luncheons, for dinners, the things that were on the books in the social register? And she was asking that because the Civic Association was going to have a luncheon for 175 people, and it was a very important luncheon. I was going to it as well and looking forward to it. They were featuring Ken Griffin from Chicago, and she asked that question. That took a lot of courage. Should we do these things? Should we gather? And that was almost 3 weeks ago now. I think it was March 9th. So I just want to point that out. And the Civic Association was the very first organization in town to actually cancel. And they led the way in their courageous decision-making for many others to do the same. Can you imagine if we had not canceled all of those events and all of us over the age of 65, the vulnerable group, had gotten together and had lunch or had dinners and did all the things that we would normally do? I wonder, where would we be right now? You can't prove things like that. You can only look at the science and the data and what's happening in other communities and look back on it and think to yourself, that was a really good idea. So good on you, Civic Association, Bob Wright and Mary, and all the directors of the Civic Association, and all of the other organizations that did the same, because I believe that you probably saved a lot of people from transmission of this very, very dangerous and contagious and virulent virus. So I just wanted to make mention of that. If you look at New Rochelle, where it was 2 weeks ago, and then look at where New York City is today, you get the picture. Okay, a lot of things have happened overnight. The governor issued two executive orders last evening, and I'm sure that we have already talked about that in the town. Remember that Kirk Bluen at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday just go on to Town of Palm Beach and hit on the town manager's update audio, and you can hear it, and he goes over all of the issues that have occurred within the last 24 hours, giving you the updates on the numbers of people who have COVID or COVID positive and other things. Anyway, I just want to make mention of something very important, because it's come to my attention today that people might not be heeding the governor's order. It's not an urge. It's not we recommend. It's an order that people who are coming from the tri-state area must quarantine, self-quarantine for 14 days. If you don't do that, you could have an asymptomatic infection, and you don't know that you have the coronavirus. And if you go around other people, you can give it to them, because none of us have immunity to this virus. So this virus, it's perfect circumstances for this virus, because we don't have the immunity and it's very contagious. So I just want to point that out. It's not a recommendation or an urging or try this, please. It's an order. So the other thing that I want to point out is young people are still getting together in groups. I was young. I know what it's like. I mentioned this a week ago. You just cannot do this. You may be asymptomatic and be COVID-19 positive, and you'll be giving it to someone else who is then going to go and be with other people and giving it to them. So really, you have to stop it. I know it's hard, but it's temporary, and we'll get back to our normal days and normal ways soon enough. Okay, let's see. Let's clear up some questions here. Yesterday, I talked about an aerosol, and I think that also Sean Baker, who's chief of our EMS division at the firehouse, in the fire department here, he also spoke about it. I spoke about it in a different way. I was really referring to the medical terminology of an aerosol. But let's go over what it is, because I know it's scaring a lot of people. I've heard that people are afraid to walk on the lake trail because they're afraid that there will be droplets of the coronavirus in the air. And so let's go over it. So what is an aerosol? It means that there are droplets of a virus that are suspended in the air. These are very, very tiny droplets. They did a study, and the study showed in conditions in a laboratory and in a closed environment at a certain temperature and certain humidity, they were trying to replicate what would happen in a hospital, because that's where you usually worry about the aerosol droplets during procedures. So to take that one study and then to apply it to the lake trail is probably, it doesn't have scientific heft, I would say. So I don't want you to be so afraid. It hasn't been studied extensively. I'm sure it will be studied extensively. The science is not there to support your being afraid on the lake trail. But what you should be doing still is social distancing on the lake trail, which means 6 feet away from each other. Be accommodating to one another. Be kind to one another. Try to move out of the way. We're all learning how to do this. And I know it's hard in the beginning and you forget. But if you see somebody else coming, just move over. But don't get angry at them. They're just doing their best too. So I just wanted to point that out. There, some of these studies, I looked all of it up today. Some of the studies showed that the droplets stay for 10 minutes and then fall, some 30 minutes and then fall, and this one was 3 hours and then they fall. But to really study it, you'd have to replicate the conditions on our lake trail, which would include wind as well. So anyway, social distancing, I think, is what you need to do. Okay, the other is fact or fiction. Ibuprofen. Everybody's hearing about ibuprofen, and I can really understand this concern. There was a letter written in the British Journal of Medicine, Lancet, that it was possible. This is anecdotal now. It has not been studied scientifically. So there's not scientific evidence to support this, but it's anecdotal, and it's of concern that taking ibuprofen would increase the severity of symptoms and increase the severity of the illness. So no one knows. So a lot of the time we're getting our medical news from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Apple News, U.S. News and World Report. The doctors and the scientists have not studied this yet, but there are other things that you can take. I'm not recommending them. I'm not a doctor. You have to speak to your doctor about this. But Tylenol reduces fever and reduces aches, but there are problems with Tylenol too. Ibuprofen is contained in Motrin and also in Advil. Aleve is naproxen, but naproxen is also an NSAID, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So it didn't say anything about naproxen, anything that I looked up, but anyway, that's what that's about. So fact or fiction, it's not known. The governor also is urging, as we have been in the town for a couple of weeks now, that older people should stay home. So that brings up Publix. A lot of people have been congregating at Publix in the morning, trying to get in to get their supplies. It is very well stocked. You do need to maintain social distancing. Otherwise, you're going to be causing some transmission of COVID-19. So that's all for today. Tomorrow we'll discuss what you do if someone is ill and you're taking care of them at home. So signing off for now, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Thank you.
I'm Tim Malloy with the Palm Beach Civic Association. We want to leave you now with some inspirational footage you may or may not have seen before. It's the Italian Air Force. And of course, as we all know, Italy is in the throes of this more than any other country right now, courageously standing up to the coronavirus. So here's some footage. If you have seen before, you'll like to see again. If you haven't, it's pretty inspirational. Be well. We'll talk to you soon.